What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about some very recent developments between Canada and the United States. I guess you could go ahead and say that we are in a full-blown trade war now. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it at this point, especially based on some of the news recently. Now, some of this news I've heard a little bit about. I mean, I usually like to say here in the United States, we don't really get Canadian news or news on Canadian topics and current events, but in this case, since it has to do with the United States, I am seeing some of these news headlines for once, and some of this stuff at the same time I have no idea about, because here in America we certainly don't cover everything, and we certainly don't tell the Canadian side of the story of this whole trade war. So, we all know that the United States, we started this whole thing with 25% tariffs on Canada, and apparently, shocking surprise, that has had some pretty significant consequences. Canada is retaliating, understandably so, so there's a video here I want to watch. It says Canada retaliates and mocks Trump. So I want to see what this is.
Okay, this order, it's a wonderful order. It's a beautiful order. This order is pulling American booze off the liquor mart shelf.
Hold on, wait, what is it doing? Hold on. I'm distracted. I'm distracted because this guy, I'm not sure who this guy is. This is like Canadian politicians. Is he doing a Donald Trump impression right now? Is he trying to do a... That's funny.
Okay, this order, it's a wonderful order. It's a beautiful order.
It's a wonderful order. Beautiful order. Like no other order you've ever seen. Okay. What is this order exactly? We're banning what?
This order is pulling American booze off the liquor mart shelves.
He's doing... What now? This... Hold on. I'm genuinely shocked. This isn't like a reciprocal tariff or something like that, or a tax, or... This is just straight up pulling American alcohol off of the shelf in Canada. It's just banning it. You can do that? You can... Oh my God, Canada, you're not messing around. And then then they had time to like film this video. Hold on, let me Google a picture here. This reminds me of... This is definitely like making fun of Donald Trump. If you Google images... Yeah, here we go. Like this, like... When he signs the thing and he like holds it up like that and like, I don't know, expects a round of applause or something. Yeah, he does this. And that's what this guy's doing. I like how they have a big smile on their faces. Like, yeah, take this. Holy cow. I'm surprised this isn't bigger news in the United States. Oh my God. This says Trump's threats are escalating. This is by David Eby, who's a Canadian politician. He says, now there are reports Trump wants to go after Canadian water. We'll happily send back their watery beer. Okay, make fun of us all you like. Say what you want about our character, but don't talk about our watery beer like that. It's very thirst quenching. But joking aside, effective immediately, we are removing all American products from British Columbia liquor store shelves. Is this just a British Columbia thing? maybe that's why it's not even bigger news in the United States, that is. I mean, this is huge news. Like, this should be bigger news. Don't get me wrong. But it's not. I thought this was all of Canada. I was like, oh my God. All of Canada? You're just. All the liquor? You're real. We could never, America could never boycott alcohol. It wouldn't work. We don't have the discipline. This is British Columbia. What's he have to say about this?
It was about a week ago. We announced taking liquor products and other products made in Republican states off the shelf here at the liquor store and at all of our public liquor stores across the province.
Wow.
Since then, we have seen a threat of additional tariffs on the dairy industry, an investigation into our lumber industry by the president with the aim of adding even more tariffs, and disturbing articles in the New York Times and other places about the president threatening to redraw our borders. And
It is, that's, I mean, a lot of it's very disturbing. Yeah, no kidding. It's almost, it's difficult to keep up with Donald Trump and his rhetoric about Canada and what tariffs are going into effect and by how much percent, but then we're not gonna do that. We're gonna wait a month, but no, wait, actually, I'm gonna put it back to this date, and you know what? I'm gonna do a tariff on this instead. It's impossible to keep up with this. I'm sure by the time this video is posted, like some of this information will even be out of date, I'm sure. It's impossible to keep up with. But I have to comment on they're banning, specifically targeting Republican states in the United States. On one hand, I understand that sentiment that Republican states elected Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is doing a lot of bad things to Canada. But at the same time, you know, the way that really any country or the United States work, it's like a large part of the people in those Republican states, those red states, a lot of them could be Democrats. Just because the state is majority Republican, you know, doesn't mean that 100% of the people living there are responsible for Donald Trump. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I guess if you're Canada and you're going to implement something and get a message across, you can't really worry about that. But it's just something I was thinking,
in Canadian water, then we're going to help him out by letting him keep his watery beer. I'm here to announce today that we are removing the rest of the American liquor products from the shelves of the BC liquor stores. That's wine,
Wow.
distilled products, and beer.
Wow.
And we're doing this for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One is to respond to the escalating threats that we're seeing from the United States.
Sure.
The other is to recognize the feeling that many British Columbians have now when we look at American products. We don't even want to see them on the shelf anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like I've said before, as an American, it's not a good feeling to hear this kind of stuff. And if you're Canadian, you might even be wondering, Tyler, why aren't you more upset and mad at what we're doing to you? And it's like, because I get it. Like, the United States started this as well. And the idea, how can us as Americans be upset that Canada is retaliating against these tariffs and these measures and basically at this point threats against your country? How can I possibly be upset that you guys are doing what you need to do for your country? Honestly, it'd be strange if Canada wasn't doing this kind of stuff.
And so we're sending that strong message. We're responding to what British Columbians are asking for. And we are removing the remainder of the products.
Wow. Holy cow. This is definitely escalating. Definitely escalating. A while back now, not too long ago, I did a video talking about learning about Canadians boycotting American products, just in general, a boycott, just not buying them. This is a whole nother level. This is the Canadian government mandating that American products be straight up taken off the shelves. They're not even like available. This is worse than a tariff. If Canada put a tariff on American alcohol, at least you could still buy it from us and we could gain some kind of benefit, but you're just removing it. This is, I mean, yeah, this is worse than a tariff if you're an American alcohol company. Oh my, this certainly sends a very strong message. Let's keep going. British Columbia bans all U.S. alcohol. So it's just British Columbia. Again, for a second I was like, holy cow, this is huge. I wonder if this is just the beginning. It's just starting with British Columbia. And maybe we'll expand to more parts of Canada. It's a response to Trump tariffs. Premier David Eby? Oh, that's who that guy was. Premier? Premier. What's premier? What does that mean? What is a premiere? That's like his like the premiere of a movie? Like the movie premiere? You check out that? It sounds like this is a title in Canada. I'm not sure what a premiere is. Okay, anyway. In response to Trump's tariffs and annexation threats, alcohol banned in British Columbia. Yep. Anything? Keep his watery beer. What a quote. Keep his. Okay. Problem with supply chains. Oh, I'm sure this has such far-reaching ramifications for the United States. What are we gonna do with all the extra watery beer? Like, just send it to me. No. Man. Okay, let's keep going, because there's more news, apparently. Is Doug Ford's tough talk on Trump working? That's a name I've been hearing recently. I don't know. Doug Ford? Not sure who he is, but he's saying stuff. And there's something about electricity, and he's going to take away our electricity. Ford's aggressive remarks earned the attention of Trump's Commerce Secretary. So this is him right here. Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He's one of these premiers as well. So is that like, what is that? Is that like a senator? Is that like a governor? I have to use American terminology for my American brain to wrap itself around what we're talking about. This is a political leader of Ontario of some sort. That's what a premier is, I'm guessing. He's slamming Donald Trump with aggressive comments. He blames Trump for causing chaos. It's a good way to put it, isn't it? Anything else here? Here it is. Oh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. This is it. Hold on, everyone. Let me make this bigger. Ford, so this premier, Doug Ford, is going to impose 25% electricity surcharge on the United States.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Premier Doug Ford was once again on a U.S. TV network Thursday morning, telling CNN that starting Monday, electricity the province sends to 3 U.S. states will cost 25% more.
Okay. And I know this is like 6 days ago. I know I'm behind the times. I'm sorry, but I'm catching up here. So he's threatening to impose a 25% electricity surcharge. That's not a tariff. It's called a I'm not sure all the economic terms. Who knows what's going on? Increasing the price by 25%, probably. A surcharge. Canada? Ontario provides electricity to the United States? Is that a thing? When was that a thing? How? I don't think any Americans understood that. Canada is providing that service for 3 American states? Let me play this.
That starting Monday, electricity the province sends to 3 U.S. states will cost 25% more.
Oh my
Honestly,
God.
it really bothers me. We have to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to send more electricity.
It'll mean a big price hike
Okay.
for the 1.5 million U.S. customers.
A price hike. Well, it's nice to see, like, it seems clear to me that Canadians aren't taking a huge amount of pleasure in this whole situation. Nobody is. Maybe Donald Trump is. And maybe that guy at the beginning who was doing the Donald Trump impersonation, signing the bill, he seemed to be having some fun. But for the most part, none of us are really having fun with this. Ford is saying openly, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to help Americans, but it is what it is.
Ontario supplies with electricity homes and businesses in the northern states of Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. Ford believes he can make the change without having to recall the legislature. He later told reporters that even if Donald Trump were to put a 1-month pause on tariffs to Canada, the increase would remain in place.
He did this before. Remember, he said he'd do it 1 month, 3 days later, a week later, he puts the tariffs on. So as I always say, you know, you touch a stove once and you get burnt. You don't touch that stove again. The only deal is drop the tariffs unconditionally.
And later,
wow. I mean, this is sort of the bold rhetoric Canada is probably gonna have to take in order to, like, it seems to be the only kind of language Donald Trump understands, really. Like, this kind of hard-hitting, like, no beat around the bush, no compromise. This is going to be enacted and stay in place unless all tariffs against Canada are dropped. Those are the conditions.
Trump did add that 1-month pause on products covered by the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement, signed during his first presidency, meaning Ontario electricity could go way up in price for Americans in days.
Wow.
One academic applauds the idea, but isn't sure it'll work.
Unfortunately, Ontario doesn't have leverage in this space. For the most part, Ontario exports to the United States because it has to. That we are in situations where generation exceeds domestic demand.
Ford's
Canada kind of sells its excess electricity to the United States. Okay, that doesn't mean we don't need it. Well, I don't live in any of those states, luckily. I feel bad for those Americans. Ha! No, but honestly, this is the kind of thing, and I've said this in other videos, once it starts affecting you in a real, tangible way, that's when Americans are going to finally care about this whole thing. And this is really affecting the Americans in those states. Until President Trump's tariffs are off the table for good, we are putting a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. This is Doug Ford. The 25% surcharge did go into effect. When? Just a few days ago. Okay, very recently. And then, as a response, we have Donald Trump responding on his little Truth Social thing. God, look how long this response is. You know Trump was on the toilet when he typed this out, because this is way too long. He had some time on his hands. Okay, so Canada placed the 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States. It's not technically a tariff, right? It's a surcharge, which is different. So, Trump says, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff, now to 50%, on all steel and aluminum against Canada. One of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. To Canada? Yeah, Canada is definitely the one with all the... Oh, boy. So Trump, as a response to this electricity thing, is threatening to increase tariffs on Canada. So it just goes back and forth, back and forth. This is what a trade war is, and it's happening. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. So that was yesterday. Also, Canada must immediately drop their American farmer tariff, yada yada. There's a lot of stuff, but he also goes on to say, April 2nd, there's going to be tariffs on Canadian cars, which will essentially shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada. Trump wants to shut down the automobile manufacturing in Canada. That is the extent he wants to hurt Canada. And he's not being shy about admitting it. The greatest and most powerful nation in the world. The greatest and most powerful nation in the world, the United States, America, will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever, and Canada will be a big part of that. Basically talking about how he really, really, really wants Canada to become part of the United States. And he keeps saying that, and it's really uncomfortable. Trump placing 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum after backing off. So then he backed off the 50% threat. This is what I'm saying, where like one thing comes out of his mouth and then the completely different thing. So immediately after that, he said there's no 50% threat anymore, just 25% tariff on steel, aluminum. And then Ottawa is promising to hit back if there's new tariff hikes against Canada. It just goes on and on. This is what happens. This is what we've started. He said Trump will go ahead with 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum, capping off another chaotic day of trade threats and 51st state taunts. Yep. What does Trump want? Who knows? Good question. More talk of annexation. Yeah, this stuff. Trump said he will make Canada pay a financial price for this so big that it will be read about in the history books for many years to come. That's just disturbing. I'm sure especially if you're Canadian, that's disturbing. Hearing this, the leader of the United States saying, Canada will pay for this. This will be read about in history books, how much Canada financially will suffer. Yeah, not good. Anything else? There's so much news here. Oh my goodness gracious. But let's keep pressing on. Then Canada's Ontario Premier, so that's Doug Ford, threatens to cut off power? Is that different? He wants to cut it off totally? If necessary, if the U.S. escalates, I will not hesitate to shut off electricity completely. I swear, Canada's starting to kind of get it. You're scaring me. And I think that's the point. No more of this half-measure stuff. It's like alcohol, gone. Electricity to America, gone. It's like no ifs, ands, or buts.
Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
Wow.
Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
I mean, I don't know Doug Ford, but I like how I don't like what he's doing to the United States just out of principle as an American. It's harming me and my people, but like I've said before, it's at the same time totally understandable. And the only way Canada is probably going to resolve this situation by punching back. Like, you have to. So I totally get it, even if it's harming me. But I like, he clearly takes no pleasure in this, which is admirable.
I'd rather be working together. I want to sell the U.S. more energy, more electricity, more critical minerals. I want to make Canada and the United States the richest, most successful, safest, most secure two countries on the planet.
Yeah.
But as Premier, my number one job is to protect the people of Ontario.
Premier, not premier. It's not a movie premiere. He's a premier. Excuse me.
And in hand, protect the people of Canada. I will do whatever it takes. I will fight like I've never fought before to protect Ontario.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. And there's more. This just keeps going and going. Trump responds on Truth Social. Why would we allow another country to supply us with electricity? Can you imagine Canada stooping so low? We're the ones who started this. We did it. We started the whole thing. What do you mean, Canada stooping low? And they'll pay you'll pay the financial price for this. So big, it'll be in the history books. Mark Carney, the next Prime Minister of Canada, chimes in, saying President Trump's latest tariff attack on Canadian workers, family businesses. My government will ensure our response has maximum impact in the United States, minimal impact in Canada. The Canadian government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect and make credible, reliable commitments to free and fair trade. Yeah, that is what needs to happen, isn't it? So this is Mark Carney saying Canada's you're gonna keep this up, and it's not gonna stop till the madness stops, and that's probably the right message. And then Ontario suspends levy on U.S.-bound electricity. So that 25% surcharge on American electricity and the threat to turn off electricity to the 3 American states, that has all, been paused, apparently, very recently, probably not long after the threats were made, by the look of it. Ford says the U.S. Secretary of Commerce extended an olive branch amid the escalating tensions. Okay, we have a video here.
Howard Lutnick.
And Secretary Lutnick has sent out an olive branch.
Ford will head to Washington this week to meet with Lutnick, along with Federal Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc, discussing not just tariffs, but the entire U.S., Canada, Mexico trade deal.
Sure.
Given that, Ford says he's paused the 25% electricity surcharge.
Okay.
Any negotiation that we have, there's a point that both parties are heated and the temperature needs to come down. And I thought this was the right decision.
Pretty
They
reasonable.
understand how serious we are about the electricity and the tariffs.
Earlier in the
Pretty reasonable. Seems like a reasonable guy. And he's actually paused the electricity surcharges, trying to make an attempt to negotiate, which is good.
day on social media, Trump vowed planned steel and aluminum tariffs to Canada would double, not 25%, but 50%. Then, throughout the morning, Ford made a flurry of U.S. TV appearances, not backing down on increasing energy prices for U.S. customers.
What I recommend is on the electricity bill, put down this increase is a tariff from Trump. It's a Trump tariff, which is basically a Trump tax.
Trump,
Because you can think of it like this, like Trump started the trade war by tariffing Canada. Now Canada has to do stuff like this to the United States. Your hands are basically tied. You have to respond. Like, you can't just do nothing. And so, even though it feels like Doug Ford, and maybe, I can't speak for all Canadians, of course, but feel like feels like the sentiment is some Canadians don't want. No one wants all this. No one wants this hostility and trade wars, and we want to just prosper together and have a good relationship. But that's not the way it can be right now. That's not how it works for this to resolve.
clearly listening, posting on social media they will pay a financial price so big it will be read about in history books for years to come. Later came that call between Ford and Lutnick. As for the steel and aluminum tariffs,
He has to bounce it off the president, but I'm pretty confident he will pull back. And I'm not speaking for them. I'm not speaking for the president.
and Ford says if those tariffs do kick in, so will the federal government's dollar-for-dollar tariff response, according to a
Oh, right. So Canada is doing a completely reciprocal tariff response. If the United States increases tariffs, places more tariffs, Canada is basically vowed to respond in kind.
conversation he had with Minister LeBlanc. Trump also talked about Ford this afternoon.
As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And
it's interesting, Trump's language sometimes. He's like, there's a very strong man in Canada. There's a very strong man in Canada making these electricity threats. Is he saying Ford looks like kind of a big, strong guy? Or on some level, I think Trump respects this kind of thing. When Canadians like Ford, like, put your foot down and make these threats back at us, it's like Trump, in a weird way, kind of is like, okay, fair play, very strong.
it would have been a very bad thing if he did, and he's not going to do that, so I respect that.
Late in the day, the U.S. confirmed that
Isn't it just wonderful having to figure out how to deal with this person? That's kind of the game Canada is having to play.
Tariffs on steel and aluminum, they are going ahead, but at the lower 25%, not the threatened 50%. Tomorrow, Ford will be meeting with Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney ahead of that trip to Washington. Lorenda Redekop, CBS.
Okay, so basically at this point, everything is like, I don't know. Like I said, by the time this video is posted, who knows? Who knows what's going to have happened? But talking about the future a little bit, just ending off this video with a little article here. It says, searches for a recession and tariff are surging in the United States. Americans rarely pay attention to trade, but we are now. And I think this is sort of the beginning of Americans kind of waking up a bit and starting to care about this whole situation. One of my biggest criticisms has been a lot of Americans never understood what the tariffs meant, what the consequences would be. And now with Canada's retaliation, Americans are starting to wake up a bit, and it also doesn't help. America might be going into a recession. It's a little unclear. They're not declaring it a recession yet. And so Americans are just unhappy because it's hurting. Lots of things are starting to hurt our finances, and that is probably the number one thing that gets Americans' attention. So, yeah, Americans are definitely starting to perk up a little bit about all this. And certainly if you live in those 3 states that almost got the electricity turned off, my God. So the Canadian message is certainly starting to be received here, which I think is good. So who knows? Who the heck knows what's going to happen next? It's like a weird season of TV where you don't know what's going to happen. It's like the next episode of Lost. You ever watch that show? Is the smoke monster gonna come back? What happened to that polar bear? Who's in the hatch? You never know what's happening. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. If you're Canadian, that'd be really awesome to hear your perspective on all this stuff and anything I might have missed here. That'd be awesome to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.